Okay, as I mentioned before, last week I told you to install an Ubuntu Server 2004 in your laptop using virtual machine or in your device itself. I hope that you already install all the tools that I mentioned before. Okay. So today we will talk about command line interface, and we will learn about how we operate Linux operating system using command line interface. We don't use a graphical user interface for this lesson because I think you are very familiar with graphical user interface. I think when you are using a graphical user interface in Linux, it's very similar to Windows or to Mac OS. Okay, so in this lesson, we will only use a command line interface. I hope that you all install the Linux server or Ubuntu server in your computer, but it's not necessarily you install VirtualBox for running Ubuntu. You could install in different virtual machine tools, for example, VMware or any other virtualization tools. One example that I use today called a Windows subsystem for Linux. Maybe you're familiar with that. I don't know. But in Windows 10, you could install Linux distribution right in your operating system in Windows. It called Windows subsystem for Linux, and I will use that for this example. Some days ago, I update my computer from Windows 10 to Windows 11, and it happened that in the notification center, Windows 11 is ready. You could install your to Windows 11, and I'm installing my Windows to Windows 11, and then the Windows subsystem for Linux is very easy to install in Windows 11. But maybe you have to wait with Windows 11 to install WSL. Okay. But if you want to install the Windows subsystem for Linux in your Windows 10 computer, you could search in the Google and then find how to install the Windows subsystem for Linux in your computer. Okay, I think when you are using and we are using Windows subsystem for Linux, it is very light compared to when we are installing Ubuntu in virtual machine. Because the WSL is a virtual machine itself, but it is very tightly integrated to Windows, so it is easier and more comfortable to use. And the resource that used by the WSL is very efficient compared to virtual machine. Maybe I will share a screen about that. So in this lesson, we will talk about the operating system. I think we already discussed about this a little bit several weeks ago. The operating system is a software that manages hardware, computer resources, and other services in the computer program. Okay, I'm sorry, this is still in Indonesia, but I think it's okay. Okay. The function of the operating system is memory management and process management, device management, and file management. So when you are using the computer operating system, that's the main function of the operating system. As we mentioned before, when, for example, you are using calculator, and then there is a software in the calculator, but every other calculator has different software because the hardware of the calculator is different one to another. So we have to develop other software to install the calculator software that the calculator itself will be function properly. But when we are using the operating system itself will map the function of the many other hardware in this world, and then they could function. The programmer will use the application programming interface to make a software for example, a calculator. So the developer don't need to know what the hardware that they use. They only need to know what the function that operating system provide. So the operating system will translate the language into the hardware itself automatically. Okay, that's the main function of the operating system. Okay, do you have any question about the operating system itself? I think the operating system course will be held in third semester, I think, and you will have a detailed explanation about the operating system. And yes, do you have any question about the operating system? Okay, we will move to Linux operating system. I think you all already knew about the Linux, but maybe some of you is familiar with Linux, but some of you maybe does never use Linux. But I think most of you have already using Linux. For example, when you are using Android device, you already using Linux. Okay. Because Android is Linux operating system distro. Linux is open source of operating system. Maybe I will ask you a question. What is open source? I think you already heard about open source, but what is it? Okay, Reiki.
I think open source is free operation system that if we see Windows, we should buy a packet of Windows to you can get it. But for Linux is free. You don't need pay for use it and legal.
Okay, maybe others. Do you have any opinion about open source? Okay, is it free is always open source, or open source is always free? Okay, maybe the simple term about the open source is the source code of the program is open. We could modify the source code, and we could use the source code for other purposes or something like that, but it's not necessarily is free. Okay, because some of the code in the open source code, sometimes it's licensed to other it's tied to a license. Okay, we will talk about open source software. I think in this course, okay, but I think it's after middle test. But in general, yes, the open source is free. We could use the open source software whenever we want. Okay. Okay. So Linux operating system is open source software, and the Linux itself, it's called a kernel. Okay, the kernel is the core of the operating system itself. But in top of the kernel or the Linux, they will have many software in top of the Linux operating system that will be modified, and it is configured as they need. Okay, so the operating system, the Linux operating system, it has many versions. Has many versions of operating system that called a distro or distribution. Okay, so one operating system, Linux operating system, to another is maybe different, but the core is the same. It is Linux. Okay, for example, Ubuntu and Red Hat, and then OpenSUSE or Android itself, it's using the same kernel or the same Linux base, but they modify the function for using for different purposes, something like that. So every version that they call that distro. Okay, and some of the famous distro, I think it's called the Red Hat. It's very famous for enterprise user, and then Debian for enterprise and consumer users. Fedora, I think I don't remember is it the Fedora is still in here or not, but I think it's fading away. And then the SUSE Linux is for enterprise, and then they call the customer level is OpenSUSE Linux. And the most used operating system is Ubuntu. So we will use Ubuntu for this lesson. Okay. So the Linux itself is many distros in the Linux. Okay. For example, the Red Hat, there is a CentOS. The Red Hat is for the enterprise user, and then the consumer version of Red Hat called CentOS. Okay, it's the same like the Debian. The Debian is like more like enterprise for enterprise user, but the Ubuntu is for the consumer. Okay, Ubuntu is based on Debian. So when you are using Debian, I think it's most of the command will be compatible with the Ubuntu, and most of the software will be compatible with Ubuntu. Okay. And then many other distribution that might be you have to try one by one. I think some of you, I think, already installing some of the distribution, and that's good. Okay, this is one of the three of the Linux distribution. For example, the Linux. The first is to the Debian, for example, the Debian, and then Debian will be modified to Ubuntu, and Ubuntu will be modified by to Ubuntu, Kubuntu, Ubuntu, and many other operating system or many other distribution. Okay, and for example, where is Red Hat? I don't see it. Okay. Yes, many operating system. Oh, okay. The Fedora, the Red Hat Enterprise is modified by from Fedora. I think the Fedora and the Red Hat Enterprise, and then the Red Hat will be modified to CentOS and CentOS SME server and something like that. Okay, so the maybe this is very little structure of the Linux itself. Maybe it's only 1% of the Linux distribution that we have in this world. Okay, so we will using Ubuntu because this is most widely used Linux distribution derived by from Debian. And the Ubuntu come from the South African language. I am because of you, or humility toward others. If you saw the logo of Ubuntu, it's like three people holding an hand one to another. Okay. So this is their head, and this is their hand, and they held their hand one to another. Okay. This is the Ubuntu logo. That's mean I am because of you are, or humanity toward others. And the Ubuntu variant, like backtrack, it's for, I think it's for hacking. And then Linux Mint, Ubuntu for education, Ubuntu. I think the Ubuntu version using two user interface. The first is Genome, and then the second is KDE. The KDE version of Ubuntu called Ubuntu. Okay, Ubuntu, Black Ubuntu, and many other Ubuntu. I think there is one version mobile or Ubuntu that you could install in your smartphone. Maybe when you interested about the mobile version of Ubuntu, you could install the Ubuntu in your mobile phone. Okay, and Ubuntu has cooperation with Microsoft. That the Microsoft launching the feature in the Windows called Windows Subsystem for Linux. This is what I mentioned before. Okay, the Windows Subsystem for Linux is Linux itself installed in the directly in the Windows. So we don't need other virtual machine to install the Linux. But I think when you are using Windows 10, you have to install manually. But when we are using Windows 11, you could install it easily. This is the interface of PowerShell, Windows PowerShell. You could open in your start menu and type PowerShell, Windows PowerShell, and this will open the PowerShell apps. Okay. And when you want to install the Windows Subsystem for Linux in Windows 11, you only type WSL dash install, and the WSL will be installed automatically in your computer. But I'm not sure when you are using this command in Windows 10 computer, but you could try to do that. But when you couldn't do that, you have to search Google to how to install WSL in your computer. Okay. It's already installed in my computer, so I just type WSL and press enter, and the Linux will be launched in my computer. It needs several seconds to launch, so I already using Linux in my computer without a virtual machine. But actually, they are using the Windows Hyper-V virtual machine to running this WSL. Okay. So we'll talk about a command line interface. Maybe some of you may be familiar with this, but we will talk about this a little. Some of the command line interface that we usually use in Linux. Okay. So I have prepared the terminal command. I will share it in the e-learning after this lesson. Okay. So in Linux command line, before we are using the Linux command line, we have to know about the directory structure in Linux, especially in Ubuntu. Okay, this is the directory structure in Linux. Maybe some of you familiar with it, but when you don't, we will talk about it now. The first or the main of the directory structure, it's called the root. Okay, the root. You could imagine it like in Windows, like my computer. Okay, like my computer. But in Linux, we call that root. Okay, we call that root directory. Okay, so this is a root directory, and inside of the root directory, there are some directory there. For example, the bin directory is for user binaries. So application that you install as a user will be usually installed in your user binaries or in the bin folder. Okay. And then when the system binaries, for example, the main function of the operating system will be installed in the SBin. And then the configuration files will be placed in the etc directory. For example, when you are using web server for your Ubuntu Linux, the configuration files will be placed in the etc directory. For example, you are using Firefox, for example, and then the Firefox, the configuration of the Firefox, sometimes I think it will place in the etc directory. So when you want to find or search about the configuration of your computer, you could go to the etc directory. It's a high chance that you will find the configuration files in the etc directory. Okay, and then the dev is the device file, is about all of the hardware or device in your computer will be placed in the dev directory. And the proc is about the process information. For example, the memory usage, CPU usage, network usage is usually placed in proc directory. Okay, the var is a variable file. So some of the application need variable files, and it will be placed in the file directory. Okay, the temporary, I think you know about it, the temporary file system. So when you are, for example, you are browsing the internet, the image and some of the code will be downloaded to your computer and placed in the temporary files. Okay. And then USR is the user program. When you are installing your program, it will be placed in the USR usually. Okay. And the home is like my document in your computer or in the Windows computer. Okay. The home directory, so all of your files will be placed in the home directories, like my computer in Windows. And boot is about the bootloader files, how to you booting a computer, and then system libraries, optional application. MNT is about the mount directory. For example, you are using flash disk in your computer, it will be mounted in the mount MNT directory. So the media is similar to MNT, but the media usually using the graphical user interface. When you are using the Ubuntu version of GUI, GUI's version of Ubuntu, when you are inserting your USB flash drive, it will be mounted in the media directory, like that. In Windows, maybe it will be assigned drive later, for example, in D, E, F, G, and so on. But in the Linux, it will be mounted in the media directory or MNT directory. and then the SRV service data. I don't familiar about that, but the most important thing that you have to know about the directory structure, especially for beginner, is the etc for the configuration file, because you will uh, using etc directory very often when you are using the Linux or Ubuntu operating system for web server, for example. And then you could usually you will work in home directories, because this all of your data placed in here. Okay, something like that. Okay, do you have any question about the Ubuntu directory structure? Already using Linux? Who is using Linux before? Do you have you familiar with Linux? Maybe some of you. No, you never used Linux before. Okay, I assume you that you never use Linux. Okay, but after the lesson, I will give you an assignment to give you an experience to using Linux. I will give you some case, and then you have to solve the problem by using Linux command line interface. Okay, after this lesson. Okay, the first lesson is about the directory command. We talked about the directory before, and then we will try to use a directory command in your Ubuntu. I hope that you already opened your virtual machine or your Ubuntu, and we could done this together. Okay. So this is the interface of WSL, and when you are using virtual machine, I think it's maybe similar like this. The first command, it's called the pwd. The pwd is the command to show you where is the working directory that you are using now. For example, when I'm typing pwd and press enter, it will show the home directory and the D directory. The DHI is my username. Okay. When you are using your computer, installing Ubuntu for the first time, you ask for giving your username. Okay, and that's the first username that you will get. Okay. For example, in this computer, my username is DHI, and then I'm logging as a D. Okay, so when I typing pwd, it will give me the current directory that I'm working with. Okay, I'm working in the home and D directory now. And then the second command is called ls. This is a print content of a directory. For example, I type ls and enter. It will show you the content of the directory. Okay. And then some of the command in ls, for example, ls -l, it will show you the detail about the directory, the content of the directory. For example, in this directory, we have a download folder, Docker, Kuliah, Moodle SQL, and so on. Okay. So next command, it's called the cd, or change directory. Okay. Now we are working in the home D directory, and when we want to go to other directory, we could use cd command to go to next directory. For example, I want to go to downloads directory. I type cd and type downloads. Okay, so now I'm in the downloads directory. When I type pwd, you could see that we are working in the downloads directory. Okay, it's simple like that. Okay, when you want to exit from this directory, you could use cd and then type point. I don't, okay, and you will go to the previous directory, okay, or exit from your directory. And then special command like cd/, it is the command to go to the root directory. So when you type cd and /, we will go to the root directory. Okay, this is the root directory. And then the special command cd, I don't know what the name of the character is. Do you know what character it's called? It is the file left of my keyboard. In the bottom of the escape button. I don't know what the name of this character is. But when you are using this command, it will be go to your home directory. For example, this is your home directory. Okay? So when we are using cd and this character, you will go to the home directory. You have to know about this because we will use the this command to many occasions. Okay? Do you have any question about the directory command? Okay, maybe some of the command, for example, mkdir, mkdir is for making a directory. Okay, for example, in this folder or in this directory, we don't have any folder that called IKI. Okay, but when we are want to create the folder, we could use mkdir, and we could use we type the name of the directory, for example, IKI. Okay, and then when we are using the ls, the folder will be created in here. Okay, you could using the mkdir for making directory. Okay, maybe we open the AKI directory by we are here now in the home D and AKI directory, and we will be working in this directory. Okay, for example, we are using creating new directory, for example, test, and when we see the content of the folder, we will see the test directory. Okay, for removing the directory, we using rm dir to removing the directory. Okay, when you see where, because we are already removing the test directory, the content of the IKI directory will be empty. Okay, because we are already removing the directory. Do you have any question about this? Okay, next comment is about the file comment. When we want to creating a new file, we could use the touch command. For example, touch, and then we will making the test.txt file, and then the touch file, the test.txt files will be created by the text command. Okay, and you could edit these files by using many applications. For example, in Linux, the most famous text editor in Linux is called VI, and then Nano, and I'm familiar with Nano. So in this example, we will use Nano for editing the test.txt files. Okay. The command is Nano, and then you could type the file name of the file that you want to edit. Okay, Nano test.txt, enter, and then this is the Nano program. Okay. So this is Nano. You could write anything you want in this. Maybe in Windows it's just like a notepad, but in the Nano is very powerful for editing or configuring your configuration files. Okay. This is very useful yet simple application. For example, I will give the content of the files like this, maybe. Okay, and then for saving the files or writing the files, I could use the write out command like in here. This character is for control, and then the next character is what character in your keyboard. For example, this control plus O, so we could press control and O. This will write the data into the files. In Microsoft Word is, I think, like save the files, okay, or save as. So write the file, yes, enter, and then 17 line is written into the test.txt files. And when you want to exit, this is the command for exit, Control X, and it will exit the program. Okay. So when deleting the file, you could use rm, but I don't use it now. When you want to new the content of the files, you could use the cat command. Okay, and then write the file name. For example, cat test.txt, and when you press enter, the content of the file will be displayed in your display. Okay, something like this. So this is what we write before, and then maybe there is some problem when we are using the cat command, because when the file is very long and very large in size, it will be complicated when we using the cat command, because it will be many thing that will be displayed in your computer, and that's not efficient. But sometimes we only want to know the top 5 of the files, or top bottom of the files. We could use head command head to display the first, I think 10 content in your file. For example, head test.txt, and we will see 10 line of the files. Okay, and then when we are using tail, we will they will give you 10 the top 10, but sorry, 10 character line from the bottom. Okay, this is, there is some space in here that they just display it. Okay, so this is only 10 from the bottom. Okay, but when we want to filter, for example, head, we only want to see 5 lines in the top, so we could use head min 5, and then the file name. They only show you the top 5 of the files, and tail min 5. They will only give you top bottom 5 bottom of the files. Okay, so for example, you want to 40 lines in from the bottom, you could write something like that. Okay, so this is top 40 from the bottom. Okay, something like that. So when you want to remove the file, you could using rm to remove the files. Okay, that's the txt, and then the files will be deleted or removed. Do you have any question? I think it's fairly simple, but you have to used to using this. Okay. Okay. Do you have any question? The next command is a file system command, like copy, moving of files, or creating a shortcut, and checking the disk space, and checking the memory directory size. Okay, I'm creating files. That's so we have one files in here. Okay, and then I'm creating a directory. For example, the directory called test, and in this directory will be have 2 files, the test files and the test directory. Okay, maybe and then when you want to copy the test.txt to the test directory, you could using the cp command, cp test.txt, and then where do you want to place the files? The files will be placed in the test directory, and then the file name is, for example, test2.txt or something like that. Okay, so I'm copying the test.txt files into the folder test, and the file name is test.txt. Okay, when we go to the test directory, we will see this a files called the test.txt. Okay, something like that. We could remove this file. For example, I'm removing this file, and then it will be gone. I'm back to the IKI directory, and we will using the mv mv command. Okay. mv is for moving the file into the different directory. Okay, for example, mv test.txt, I will be move the file to the test directory. The name of file is test.txt. So when I see this folder, the test.txt files will be removed because it is moved to the test directory. Okay, when I go to the test directory and see the content of the test directory, there is a test.txt files in here. Okay, the mv command could be used to rename your files. For example, mv test.txt. I will rename the test.txt into test2.txt, for example. So I'm using test2.txt, and I'm renaming the test.txt to test2.txt. So you could see this, the test.txt will be gone, and then there is a file called the test2.txt, because I'm renaming the test.txt to test2.txt using the mv mv command. So the mv command is for moving the files, and then to renaming of files or folder. Okay. The next command is called the df. Df is to check how many data storage that you have and how many available storage that you have. For example, this command is df, and they will be displayed the information about our disk. This is our disk, the def sdc. This is our disk, and we only use about I think it's 5 gigabytes of memory, and then the available storage is about 244 gigabytes of storage. Okay, it is, I think it is in megabytes, sorry, in kilobytes. So one block, it's, yes, it's in kilobytes. Okay, so it is about 244 gigabytes available available storage. Okay, and the du is to know about the information in your folder. For example, the test folder, it's only 4 kilobytes in the test directory. Okay. Do you have any question about the file system? Let me go to the next line. This is about the user command. The user command is to creating a user and changing their password and then removing a user. I don't want to creating a user in WSL because I'm not sure what will happen in WSL environment. But when you are using a virtual machine, please try to adding a user in your virtual machine. Okay. Unfortunately, I'm not installing a virtual box in my laptop. I'm only installing my virtual box in my computer. You could try this yourself. Okay. And some special command like a man, it's to showing the manual of the some function, shut down to shut down your computer, rebooting your computer, exit to log out your user, and then sudo is command for super user. Okay. For example, we are using nano before, right? But when we want to know how the nano function, we could use man to see the user manual of the nano. Okay, so we could type man nano and then enter. This is the user manual of nano. Okay, you could read this user manual like help in Windows usually, but in Linux they call this man. Okay, user manual. Press Q to quit the manual. And then shutdown, I think you all knew about shutdown. When you type in shutdown, enter, the computer will be shut down and reboot. The computer will be reboot. I will not using that function now because the computer will be shut down and rebooting. Okay. The exit is to log out the user. For example, this is my user, Dehai. And when I want to log out the user, I just type exit, and then the computer will be logging out. Okay. Maybe in the virtual machine environment, you will be redirected to the login page. But because I'm using the Windows subsystem for Linux, it will be exit the application itself. Okay, and go back to the PowerShell. Okay, do you have any question about this? Okay, I just will give you the assignment. Please go to that assignment, and then you solve the problem that I will give you. Okay, and this is the, I think, the most important thing about the Linux operating system, because Linux usually called the safe operating system or secure operating system, because they have a strict file permission or directory permission in their file system. Not like the Windows, the file permission is not that strong. Linux operating system have a very strong file permission. That's why Linux, they call Linux is more secure than a Windows operating system. I think that's, maybe it's not actually 100% true, but some of the function is will be very secure using the file permission in Linux. Okay, so this is the file permission in Linux. Every files and directory in Linux will have file permission. Okay, there are 10 bits in the file permission. This is the bit of the file permission, the first, and then until the 10 bit. Okay, the first bit is refer to what type of the files that that is. For example, the D is for the directory, and the dash is the for other than directory. For example, files. Okay. Maybe I will give you an example here. Okay. In this directory, we could see the directory using ls-l command, and then we could use see the content of the directory here. For example, downloads, AKI, Docker, and something like that. And then the far left of the display, you could see this, something like this. This is the file permission. Okay, file or folder permission. The first character of this permission, there is two type of the permission here, D or dash. The D is refer to the directory. So when the first character is D, it is a directory. For example, this downloads, it is a directory. Docker is a directory because this is D, and the Moodle.sql is not a directory. So this is the first character is dash, not D. Okay. So the first character is referring to directory. As simple as that. Do you understand about this? Do you have any question? Okay, please respond when I asked you.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
So I want to ask you about the directory file is symboled by D, and is file is just symbol with
Yes.
the strip one?
Yes.
I mean, like
Yes.
there's no other symbol to
No.
declare the file?
No. So
Okay.
the first character is only D or dash. Okay. The D is referring to directory, and then the dash is referring to other than directory. Okay. Or
Okay,
not
thank you,
directory.
sir.
Yes. As simple as that. Okay. Because maybe there is a question about the file extension. For example, this Moodle.sql. It is the file extension of the Moodle files. But in Linux, it's treat all the extension the same. Okay. Maybe it is specific to the application that you use. So in Linux file system, they only knew about the files or directory. Okay, directory or not directory, something like that. So they give the tag about in the first character like this. Okay, D or dash. Okay. The rest of the bit is I think it's not 9 character here. And this name 9 character divided by 3 group. Okay, 3 group. The first called the owner. The first 3 is the owner. The next 3 is the group, and the last 3 is the other user. We will talk about it. It is fairly complicated, but I think you will understand it when you using it. Okay. So I will give you assignment after this about how to use this file permission. I will give you an explanation about this now. So in Linux operating system, we have the 3 users group. Okay, the first is called the owner. The owner is the owner of the files. Okay, the owner of the files. The group is the group of peoples or a group of users. For example, you are in the AKI class. Okay. I will call you international class. Okay, you are in the international class. Every one of you has a username. For example, your student number. Okay, every one of you has a username. Okay, every username is the every user is the owner of their username. Okay, that's called the owner permission. So you could do anything in your account. Okay, as a user or as a owner, but the combination of the class or the group of international class called the group. Okay, called group. Or we usually call it a user group. Okay, so the combination of some of the user, we call that group. Okay, so and outside of the group and the owner called other users. For example, your friend in the class B or class C is other users. Okay, your class in the international class is called the group. Okay, the individual of you is called the owner, something like that. Okay, so that's the 3 permission that we will have to assign for every files and folder that you will create. Okay. Until this, do you understand about that? Could you understand about what I told you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have 3 groups, and every group has 3 permission. Okay. Every groups have 3 permission. So the first permission is called the read permission. The character is R. Okay, the read permission. And the second permission is write permission. And the third permission is execute permission. Okay, the read permission is to reading a files or the directory. Okay, that's the read permission. And then the second part, write, is to writing the files or the directory. So you have the permission to write or not. Okay, and then the last part is execute. For example, executing the program, running a program or something like that. That's the execute permission. Okay, do you get it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, every user group has 3 permission. Okay, the owner of the file has read, write, and execute, and the group permission same, and the other user is the same. Okay, but in Linux, the permission could be written in many formats. For example, the character format like this, R, W, and X, for example. The permission. and then sometimes they write it in number or octet format. Okay, for example, 7, 5, or 4. 7 for owner permission, because this is the first 3-bit. Okay, and then the 5 for the group permission, and the 4 for other user permission. And when this number will be translated into character, will be like this: RWX for 7, okay, R-X for 5, and R-dash for 4. Okay, how we could knew about this? The format is like this. Okay, the execute permission will be assigned number 1. Okay, the write permission assigned to number 2, and the read permission will be assigned to number 4. Okay, 1, 2, and 4, something like that. Okay, do you get it? Do you get
Yes,
it?
sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then the combination of that will be the permission of that file or that user group. Okay, for example, when you using 4, okay, 4 is this bit. Okay, 4. The 4 only you could they only give you the read only permission when the number is 4. Okay, when the number is 5, they give you the permission of read and execute, but not write, something like that. Okay, and 7, they give you permission about read, write, and execute. For example, the files they given you the permission of 2, for example. The 2 only give you the permission to write, but not read and not execute, something like that. Okay, and this will be assigned to the owner and the group and the other user. Every user group have their own permission, something like that. Okay, could you get it? Maybe it will be very, very complicated. Or maybe I will give you an example. Okay, for example, this folder that we talked before. Maybe I will go to the IKI folder. Okay, I'm making files. Test.txt, for example. So we could see the permission here. For example, D is for the directory, as we mentioned before, and then this the first 3 directory for owner permission. Okay, so the owner have the permission to read, write, and execute. That's for owner permission. And then the group permission only could read the files and execute the files, but cannot write the files. Maybe the example is for like this. You have assignment, group assignment. Okay, you have a group assignment in the class, and then in the group assignment, you choose one of the leader. Okay, the team leader of the group. The team leader have a book. For example, they have a book. Okay, they have a book, and then that's the book is owned by the leader. Okay, the book is owned by the leader. So the leader could write the book. Okay, the leader could write the book because they are the owner. They have the right permission. Okay, they write the book. She write the book. Okay, and then other team member could only see what they've written. Okay, what the leader write in the book. So they only could see or read what the owner write in the book. Okay, that's because the owner have the permission of read, write, and execute, but other or the in the group only have the read permission. So they couldn't write the book because the owner don't give you the permission. But they could only only read the book. That's one of some example of this problem. Do you understand about that?
Sir, I have a question, sir.
Yes.
By your example, by reading a book, what is the example by execute the permission to execute?
Okay, it's maybe in that example we could not give you. I couldn't give you an example about the execute with that example. Okay, the execute is about to executing a program. So for example, maybe in your computer, maybe not in that example, okay, but in Linux you could execute a program. For example, opening Firefox, for example, executing the Firefox, then the Firefox will be launched. That's the execute permission. Okay, it's not the same with the read. Read is reading, but execute is opening the application. That's for the execute permission. Do you get it?
So about the write, we can modify the file, yes.
Yes. Write is for modifying the files or writing the files. Okay, deleting the files, writing the files, modifying the files, creating a files. That's a write permission.
Sir, do we modify or write the file after we execute it or before it?
Usually before, okay, because you only execute your files or your program when it's ready. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. But it's not the case. Okay. Many cases that I don't know the case that you have to write your files after you executing it. I think that's not possible because it will be locked because it's running. Okay. So you have to write your files first and then you execute after that. I think that's the explanation. Okay. Okay. Do you understand about this? Okay. If you have any question, it's okay.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Can you modify the permissions for other users group or and the users too?
Of course, we could, but usually you could only change the permission when you are the owner of the files. Okay, when you are the owner of the files, you could change the permission. And usually, when you are have a write permission, you could change the permission. Okay, because changing the permission is writing the files. So modifying the files. So you have to have a write permission usually. But usually when you are using you are the owner of the files, you could change the permission. But one of the user, it's called the super user. Okay, we will talk about this in this slide. Sorry, this slide. Okay. There is a command that called the sudo. The sudo is for the super user. In Windows, you could call this the administrator, a user. Okay. When you first time installing your computer or installing Ubuntu in your computer, you will ask to have a username. Okay. The first username that you assign to your computer, it's automatically a super user. Okay, so for example, me, I'm using this. My username is DHI, and this is I am a super user. Okay, and when you are using your NIM, for example, or your student number, that is a super user. So the first user that you assign to your computer, that's usually be a super user. And how to use the super user? You could write or type sudo, okay, sudo, and then su. This is for login to the super user. Okay, when I'm enter, they will ask for the password confirmation, and then I'm login as a root. Okay, this root is a super user. Okay, as a super user, you could do anything to files and folder and to your computer in general. Okay, so the question before, could other user change the permission of a files? The answer is yes, when they have the permission, and the super user have every permission. So super user can do anything. Okay, so that's I think the answer. Okay, do you understand, Bada?
Sir, can the owner of the file change the ownership of those files to other users so that other users can see, write, and execute, but the the previous owner cannot see it again?
I don't think so. This is for only for super user, I think, because the owner don't have permission to change the user.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so I don't think so, but you have to try, or maybe you have to try in your computer, because as I mentioned before, in my computer I don't I cannot create a new user because it's tied to the Windows operating system. Okay, because I'm using WSL, not the virtualized environment. Okay, maybe you have you could try in your virtualized environment to try adding a new user and then assign those user the file to the user using your own username. Okay, but as a root, you could do that. Okay, but I don't think I will talk about it because this is only for the introduction. You could try many different things in your computer. Okay, could we continue the lesson?
Yes, sir.
Okay, about the permission. So we have this permission. Okay, in our folder, sorry, we have the test directory and the test.txt. Okay, for changing the user, sorry, the permission, you could use the chmod, change mode. Okay, change mode of the files, and then you could write the permission. For example, I want to give the permission of the owner is 7. 7 is good, read, write, and execute. And then for user, sorry, for group user, I will give only read only R 7 4. And then for other user, I will not give any permission. So 7 for O, 7 for owner, 4 for group, and O for other user. Okay, what I could do is typing chmod and then type 740, 7 for user, 4 for group, and 0 for other user. Okay, and then the files, for example, test.txt. And then when I see the permission now, they only give you something like this. Okay, user or the owner will have RWS permission, and then the group only have R permission, and the other user don't have any permission. Okay, something like that. So maybe we will give the user only read permission, for example. Okay, only read permission. You could use something like that, like this. Okay, chmod and then u for user permission, and min is for removing the permission. Okay, then what permission do you want to remove? For example, I want to remove w permission or write permission. Okay, so you could use something like that, chmod u min w. So I'm removing write permission for user. And then what files? The files is test.txt, for example. And then when we see the content of the folder, the files, we could use this only have the read permission. The write permission is revoked because we do that before, and the execute permission is still there. Okay. Or for example, we could give the group permission for executing the files. So we could use something like this. The group permission is G for group permission, and plus for assigning a new permission. And then, for example, I give the X or execute permission, okay, for group permission. Okay, enter. When I see this, we could see the group permission have execute permission now, because I assign G plus X in here. Okay, so many things that you could do to assign a permission to a files or folder. You could using this format, for example, G plus X, G for R plus R, G min W, something like that. Or you could using the numbers like this. Okay, for example, the number is 740. When you remember what the number for assigning the permission. Okay, so for example, this files has the read and execute permission for owner, but not write permission. Okay, I'm going to my user sheet D, and then I will open the test.txt by using cat, and then opening test.txt. Okay, maybe the test.txt is empty files because I'm not writing something there. And then I want to writing the files nano using nano test.txt. Okay, and then when I press enter, it's not text but test.txt. Enter. There is an error message. The file test is unwritable because we don't give the write permission to the file test.txt for the owner. Okay, that's one example about how we using the permission here. But maybe I will change the permission first. I'm giving the write permission user plus write permission, and then the test.txt. I'm giving the write permission for test.txt. Okay, I'm giving the write permission for test.txt. Nano. I can write right now because I'm giving the write permission for the files. So I'm writing the files. Okay, and when I want to see the files, I can see the files because the permission is for read permission is allowed. Okay. One example is to revoke the read permission. Okay, I'm revoking the read permission for the test.txt files. Okay, and then I want to see what is the content of the file, the test.txt, and enter. the permission is denied because we don't have the read permission for the files, something like that. Okay, so in Linux is very complicated yet secure, because you could do anything to safeguard your files by using the file permission, something like this. That's why the Linux operating system is called safer or more secure than Windows operating system, because the file permission like this. Okay. Do you have any question? Sorry, my battery is running low. Okay. Do you have any question for the file permission?
No, sir.
Okay. So that's the file permission. So one of the tasks as server administration is to securing the file permission. Many cases of the hacking is because the file permission. I think it's most of the hacking case is because of the administrator don't use the file permission properly. For example, when you are using the web server, and then you are when you are using the web server, the other user must have a read permission. So we could, for example, opening image from the web browser, something like that, because the other permission have the read permission. But sometimes the developer want to upload a file, for example, so they need write permission to the files. But when the developer is not properly set the permission, sometimes the hacker could manipulate that permission. So they could upload virus to the server, and then the hacking could begin by only the right permission, something like that. So you have to secure your server by using the file permission properly. Okay. The next slide is about this is the same permission that we talk about. Okay, and then this is the package tools. We call that APT. Maybe it's like a Google Play in Linux. Okay, we could install an application by using the APT command. Okay, but it needs a super user to do that. Okay. The first thing that we have to do to install an application is to update the repository. We could use apt update, and then the repository will be updated. The repository is the list of the application that we could install. Okay. So before you installing your application, use the apt update to updating the list of the files or the application that you could install. Okay. And then the second is apt search, is to searching application that you want to install. For example, I want to install Firefox. I'm using apt search Firefox. Okay, enter. And then we could see here, this is a Firefox. Okay, you could install from the repository, because some of the application is not in the repository, so you have to make sure that the application is in the repository, so you could install the application. Okay, so the next is apt install, is to installing the application from the repository. In this slide, I have an example. For example, this Nudoku. I want to install the application called Nudoku. Enter. This is very small program, only I think 10 kilobytes. It's very simple program, I think. And then after the install, we could run the program using the same name, usually Nudoku. And then this is the Sudoku games in the command line interface. Okay, you could using this. For example, this I think is not 1, 3. Yes, this 3 and one is 1. I think is correct. Yes, something like that. Okay, and then when you want to terminate the program, you could use Control C to terminate the program or closing the program. Okay, and then you could remove the application by using apt remove or uninstalling your application Nudoku, and then the application will be removed from your computer. And then when you after the removing the application, maybe we want to try running the application again. Yes, the Nudoku is uninstalled. There is no such file or directory because we already removed the Nudoku. Okay, that's for the installing application. In the problem that I will give you, there is some application that you have to install. Okay, I hope that you could done the assignment on time. Okay, and then the last part is about the running the C++ program. This is the source code that I will give you. Your assignment is to run the C++ program using the command line interface in Ubuntu. Okay, this is the source code. Just copy paste the source code, and then you using this command to running the program. Okay, try in your computer. Okay, I think in WSL is not running. Okay, because I think it's some bug in the WSL, so I could not run the program in WSL, but in virtual machine environment, it could be running properly. Okay. Okay, I think that's all about the command line interface in Linux. Maybe it's only for introduction, and you have to familiar with the operating system. Okay, the Linux command line interface, because starting from now, you will have many courses that will use command line interface. Okay, so you have to familiar with the command line interface after this course. Okay. Okay, I think that's all for our meeting today. Thank you for everyone that in this class. I think one person is resigned in Undixa because she or he have other school to attend. Okay. Thank you everyone that you attend this class, and we will meet again next week. Okay, so I will close this meeting with Paramasanti. Om Santi Santi.